Well, when it stops. Oh, we live. Okay, so as I said, the purpose of filming this is because I understand, thank you, many years of teaching that a lot of students are like, could you go over that balance of payments and current account thing? So that's why I'm going to go over the current account, but I'm going to go broader than May did yesterday, just to expand it, particularly how do we fund this thing called a deficit? And I think also we need to spend perhaps a little bit of time, what does it actually mean by a deficit? Or a golden beautiful thing called a surplus, all right, which we don't have and we haven't had for a long time. All right, so that's what we're going to do here. I do encourage you to, as we go, try and I'm going to make a little diagram for you. But just remember, it is better that you listen, all right, kind of think as you go. The words that you don't understand, note them down. And remember that page 136 to 1, it has a lot of very detailed notes on this. Okay, there's a lot of information out there. That's the problem. There's a lot of information, and you're actually being asked to narrow down in just a small bit. So what I'm going to create here is like a seesaw. Okay, I'm going to create a line, and in the middle, approximately, that's probably not quite the middle, but whatever, is the balance of payments, or BOP, non-BOP, the balance of payments. Okay, so the balance of payments every country has, and it records that country's transactions with the rest of the world, all of your transactions. So every single time you interact with the world, particularly on financial terms, it records that. Okay, now examples would be exports and imports, foreign investment. So we are looking at foreign investment when the income comes from that foreign investment, or it goes out to another country. It also records the sale of assets. Okay, it records migrants like coming from one country to another with money with them. It also records like migrants sending money home. So it's very broad. All right. So there are two parts of the seesaw that we are going to focus on. So on this side is the current account. All right, so you have this all in your books. It just doesn't have a little diagram like this. And I like to sort of think about a seesaw. I'm not a graphics person, all right, so just save the judgment or whatever. Okay, here's my seesaw. Okay, yes, all right, leave it out. I'm not a graphicsy person. But, it's like this. And here's like, I don't know, the thing it sits on. And you have one person here, and there's their leg. Okay, there's the other leg. That's not anatomically correct or whatever. Okay, and there's someone on the other end. And the whole idea is that, shush, if you want to be a teacher one day and draw pictures, then you can, but not right now. Sit down. So it has to balance, okay? If it doesn't balance, one person's going to go like flying up, and then the other one's going to probably hit their bottom when they hit the ground. So we've got to get it to a position, like a scale even, where it's balanced. Okay, and that's the key idea, and that's when you think about deficit, how do we pay for that? All right, if you've got a situation here, it has to be something here, like accounting. All right, you have to make it balanced. Okay, so this side is the current account, and on this side here is called the financial account. Okay, remember, I'm not dictating that you should note anything down because I think you could listen, right? And also you have a lot of notes there that tell you all this. But for some of you, you need to note it down because you get busy, distracted, and then you start talking, and that annoys me and other people. So you know who you are, all right? So financial account, and I'm going to put it in tiny writing because it's not that big for New Zealand, the capital account. So these are mentioned in your book on 137. You don't actually need to know about it. I think that is an outrageous shame because it's very interesting, and it just has so many fundamental issues that we have in the country that are talked about here. But sadly, that is for university at this stage. But what you do want to know is this here is going to pay for this, or if we have any savings, God forbid, as a country, we've got extra cash, it's going to come into here and be distributed. All right, so I'll come back to this. If you were to look in some American textbooks, they're going to talk about the capital account but actually they're meaning the capital and financial account. So sometimes economics textbooks change their wording about things. We primarily deal with this. So this here is, you can read your book. I'm not going to note it up because we're not really concentrating on it, but the financial account looks at foreign investment in New Zealand. So actually change of ownership. So not like, we're talking about like when they buy like a farm, when they buy shares in a company, when they put funds into a managed fund, so when they send their savings to a New Zealand bank, we're actually looking at that change of ownership or that actual investment, okay? There is also New Zealand foreign investment abroad, but we're a tiny nation of very few rich people, so there's not actually that much New Zealand foreign investment abroad. Most of it is foreign investment in New Zealand. Then there's other things. The government's got money hidden away in countries in the World Trade Organization. Okay, the IMF, we have international reserves, they're kind of minor. The key thing there is the foreign investment. Okay, so foreign investment where they directly own a company, they take over a company and own like more than 50% share, that type of thing. Or there's another type of investment that's called portfolio investment. You don't necessarily need to know this, it's probably in your book. It's the idea that there's a lot of like rich people internationally who like have managed funds and retirement funds and stuff like that. And they take those funds and they buy up little bits of shares here, you know, mortgage debt here. So just like less than 10% of, say, a company, or just like little bits of loans that they're lending out. Now, if you're really interested in it, you can learn more, but it's just basically foreign investment here versus us sending cash overseas. And because New Zealand is small and we don't have very many rich people, basically, there's a lot more foreign investment in New Zealand than there's us investing overseas. So let's get to the current account, because a lot of people get twisted with the financial account. So what you want to look at here, all right, you've got like the different accounts, and May showed you that. You have the balance of goods, balance of services, you might remember this, balance of I, what does I stand for? No, and investment income. Okay, but income's the key word. So good, income. Then you have the balance of current transfers. All right, for New Zealand, these three are key. That balance of current transfers is a big deal for some countries. So people like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, a lot of developing countries, they rely on a lot of their people living overseas in places like the US and sending money home. That's called remittances. Or some of the Pacific Islands, most of their income comes from foreign aid. All right, so these places like East Timor, where I used to work, that's a net recipient of foreign aid. New Zealand does not receive foreign aid, we give it because we don't need it. All right, so that's why whenever you look at this, we don't really look at the balance of current transfers because it's not relevant for New Zealand. So the key things we want to think about here is that really what the current account is looking at is what we call like payments. Okay, so payments flows out, all right, so it kind of got like flows out, and we are looking at actual flows of money here, okay, minus or versus income, okay, so flows in. So you've got money flowing into the country, that's good, that's income that we've received, all right, or on the other hand, we have money flowing out to other countries that is not so good, that's payments. All right, and what we're kind of looking at is the balance between these two. All right, so payments, where do we get payments? How do we get money flowing out of the country? It's kind of like two ways that money will flow out, because we do have foreign aid. So foreign aid going to the Pacific Islands would be a flow out. It's not a massive flow though, because we don't really give that much. All right, New Zealand, so there's a lot of migrants. There's a lot of people from like the Solomon Islands, Vanuatu here in New Zealand at the moment working. When they send their money home, that's a flow out, but that amount is not really that much. Like I don't think we're even talking like millions, really, like not a lot. Okay, foreign aid can be sizable, but you know, compared to the other types of payments we have going out, it's kind of like next level. So, Sandy, where do we get our money from? Where do we spend our money? Where's the money flow out to? What's it on? What are we paying for?
Exports.
Yeah. So when we talk about payments, we're talking about imports, and remember, it's import payments, so that makes sense. You have money flowing out when you pay for imports. There's one other way that we also deal with you later, that we have money flowing out. So I am actually going to use the word money flowing out because it's not so much a payment as such. Technically, that's not quite right. And I'm not talking about foreign aid or remittances to other countries. There's another way that we have funds flowing out of the country, and it's, if you eventually will learn, is quite an issue for New Zealand. Okay, and it's kind of like an historic problem that we're still yet to solve. So, do you remember, like I said, we have a lot of foreign investment in New Zealand? You might have heard about farms being sold on the media, and people worrying about that. Chinese people buying our farms. Actually, it's not really the Chinese; it's more the Canadians, Americans, British type thing. But they buy our farms, so that's foreign investment because they're foreigners and they're buying a farm which is investing in New Zealand. That farm does really well. What happens to the profit? Yeah, so that's like an income, isn't it? So the issue here is you have income from foreign investment flowing overseas. For New Zealand, that is significant. So you might think about the housing crisis and how people are going up large buying houses, and that's all good, but then most of us, don't actually have the cash to buy outright, so we take out a mortgage. Where does that money come from, those savings to, provide me with a mortgage? Does New Zealand have enough savings to cater for all the mortgages that are taken out? Hell no. No, it's like overseas. A lot of the Scandinavians are quite wealthy, all right? There's a lot of Asian countries that have a lot of savings. So we rely on the savings of foreigners, and when I have to repay my mortgage, I repay it with interest, not Swiss watches. Yeah, so interest is a massive one. There's a lot of borrowing in New Zealand, specifically on mortgages by households. And when we repay those mortgages, the interest is just going to flow overseas. Okay? So you think of a KiwiSaver fund or a managed fund overseas. What are they investing in? If you read the profile, it might talk about property. Basically, your savings are being lent to someone else. And you earn interest on that because that person has to pay interest. Anywho, just some background here. All right, income. Okay, so clearly New Zealand likes to spend a bit of cash. All right, most of us here are wearing imported clothing. Yeah, most of us, or this person here, is contributing to income flowing out of overseas. So how do we pay for this? We need to generate some income, and this is literally income. So tell me, let's ask Stanley, how do we get income? Okay. No? Okay, Harry will help you. How do you get income? We sell stuff, and they're called beautiful. Okay, so we sell exports. That's a pretty big way that New Zealand tries to generate income. We sell stuff. And over the years, the government has really tried, particularly hard, free trade deals, to try and sell more exports to pay for this. Okay, and then there's another way, and this is why we like to encourage people to get wealthy and invest their savings overseas. All right, like I said, that small amount of rich people, when their John Key's Hawaiian house is perhaps rented out to someone, that rent will flow back to Mr. Key, doesn't it? And he's a New Zealander. So that would be rental income flowing back to New Zealand. Or have you heard of Graham Hart? Mega rich dude, he's a billionaire, he's a New Zealander. He doesn't actually live in New Zealand, I don't think, but he's investment. Yeah, I think he basically buys up businesses, does them up and sells them, that type of thing. Yeah, so he's mega rich, and all his investments around the world. So he's probably got all sorts of managed funds, probably property, companies he owns, so he's getting profit, dividends, interest, all that. Probably doesn't come back to New Zealand because it's probably in some offshore account, so you don't pay tax. But let's just imagine he does live in New Zealand. It comes back here. He's a New Zealander. That's income flowing back in that we can use to pay for stuff. Okay, so income from NZ investment overseas. Okay, big problem. New Zealand's not that wealthy, so we don't really have a lot of this compared to that. Okay, so let's build a picture of what can happen. All right, so just kind of like differentiate here. Okay, flows out, flows in. So it is Statistics New Zealand's job to talk for the trading people and not trading, and get records of like all the exports and imports we have, get records of all the income flowing in and out. So it's not like Big Brother watching you, actually be using this information to calculate something called the balance of payments in the current account, right? And then that information is used to like government policy, to assess New Zealand's credit rating also. So they're going to find out all the exports and imports that we have. Okay, so particularly here. And then at the end of each quarter or year, they're going to crunch the numbers and they're going to find either one or two situations. All right, so if you have your payments, or another word is spending, okay, is greater than your income, what do you have? Starts with D. Deficit. So like sad face, not good. Okay? So situation 1 equals a deficit. Okay? The other situation you can have, so this is like, I'm just going to put here NZ plus most Western countries, like the US, okay, like UK and all that. Most Western countries have a deficit. They spend more than they earn. But one golden country still has a surplus. I think India is pushing that way as well, though they're still quite poor, is a surplus, okay, where their payments, right, their spending is the opposite. It is less than their income. And why that is, somewhere like China, they do a lot of exporting, okay, to the rest of the world, but their domestic demand is quite weak. You know, it's coming up. But generally, in a lot of those Asian countries, they tend to save quite a bit, which means they don't spend. And when they don't spend, they're not buying imports from places like us. So obviously, we know they do buy imports, they buy dairy, but they make a lot more income from selling to the rest of the world, especially the Americans. And that's why they have a surplus. Okay? So why is Mr. Trump putting tariffs up? Because America has this, China has that, America would like this. Okay, so they want to try and stop buying Chinese stuff, all right, and they want the Chinese to start buying more American stuff. And their way of doing it is to put up tariffs. I'm not feeling that's the best way to do it, but that's what they're doing. Okay? Interesting. Current events and economics. So, this is ultimately the type of situation you can have. You either have a deficit, you spend too much, or you have a surplus, you're doing very well, you're making a lot of income off the rest of the world. And what you want to imagine, if I could try and draw a picture, imagine the current account is like your wallet, okay? It's your, that's not a very good wallet, but here's your wallet, okay? Or it's your EFTPOS card, okay? I can't really draw that, but like imagine it's like your wallet. So your income's coming in, it's your EFTPOS account, your elect account, money's coming in, money's going out. And the thing is, if you have a deficit, like you spent too much in your world, what needs to happen? So in your, just on a personal level, if you spend too much, what do you need to do? You go ask someone for no, you probably use up your savings, okay, fair cool, but then you've got none because this has been happening for a while. Yeah, you need to borrow, okay? So the borrowing comes from this side, okay? So if you're in this situation here, then you need to borrow from the rest of the world. Yeah. Basically say, oh, oops, we spent too much. Could we have a loan, okay? And the borrowing takes the form of selling assets, okay? Basically here. So we sell off assets, okay, to foreign investors, all right? Or we literally, take loans which is where we take their savings. But when you do that, you've got to pay them back with interest, which is an income. Okay, so you sell shares, all right? Selling off assets could include like actually selling off like a farm, land, housing, right? It's not as much as you might think, but it also could be shares in New Zealand companies. And if you think about it, there's 42 Below, excellent Wellington company, did really, really well. Great book by the author, by the owner. But they had to sell it off and they wanted to get big. Not enough money in New Zealand to fund the expansion of that, so they sold to Bacardi. Trade Me sold to Fairfax Media. You know, doing really well, awesome company, great idea, got started. But then when you want to go to the next level, not enough savings in New Zealand. Got to go to the rest of the world and sell it off to a big multinational. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just the problem is any profits from those companies now go overseas. Okay, so that's with a deficit. But when you have a surplus, like the golden country, China, okay, and other countries, there's a few, there's not many, but there's a few other countries, all right, they're doing well. What do you do with your cash? On what?
Investments.
Beautiful. Yeah, you can spend it, but we're actually talking that they've spent it on imports, but they've still got more left over. So they're going to take these savings, their surplus, and then they're going to invest it in the rest of the world. So you're effectively lending to the rest of the world. Okay, and that's where a lot of Western countries are a bit worried, especially the States, because a lot of the debt in the States, especially we call it private, so not like the government, but like individual citizens and businesses, the debt that they have is owned by the Chinese. Because China has done so well, they've done so well, and they have lent their savings to the rest of the world, all right? The problem is that a lot of countries have become reliant on that, because they haven't stopped spending, okay? And that's how you basically buy assets, okay? Shares, all right? You lend, savings, that type of thing, to other countries. Okay? Now, there's so much more to this side that is so interesting, and I feel absolutely gutted that there's no point teaching you, because it's just kind of like, you don't need to know. Right, you don't even do it. It's probably second year university at this stage. So I think that's sad. But in a nutshell, all right, we have a deficit. This is New Zealand's situation since like 1973. All right, do you remember why? Why since 1973? That's when Britain joined the EEC. Yeah, it started to develop a bit before that, but that was kind of like the final nail in the coffin. These guys, though, since the 1990s pretty much, when their economy kind of developed, all right, that's when they started to get a surplus and then they could sell it to the rest of the world. All right, so key things to just kind of note down that I would kind of maybe like, I'm not sure if your book kind of points this out, okay? So key ideas from this, okay, is 1, foreign investment in NZ, okay, leads to income flowing out of country. So, if you have foreign investment, every time that company, the land, etc., does well, the income from that and profit from the farms and stuff and farms and profit from different companies. And so we praise the companies that do well, but the problem is the income, that profit is going to go overseas. All right? So then that is versus the idea that NZ investment overseas, okay, will lead to income flowing backwards. Yeah. And that's good, but it's not that much to country. Okay, does anyone have any questions at this point? You're like, oh, there's a lot going on. Okay. So, if I said to you, like, why do we have a persistent current account? That's basically saying, where's the problem area? Okay. So does anyone kind of like from what I've taught you now, can you see the problem area based on this? It's kind of like two. One we're kind of dealing with, but there's this other one that's, because it's generational and it's historic, it's kind of led to it, it's hard to get out of. So what's the one key area as an issue?
People who are investing in New Zealand more than we're investing in.
Yeah, and break this back to the current account. Where's the issue? So I'll just put here problem areas. There's two, but one's like a bigger deal than the other. Okay, so you're linked to that. So think about that. There's more foreign investment here than we have investment overseas. And if you think about that idea that income flows out versus very little flowing in, where's the problem? Where's the problem child? I know where the problem child is in this room, but where's it right there?
Running.
That's unkind, Nicola. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's the balance of income. So the number one issue is the balance of income, and our problem is there's more income flowing out than there's coming in. Okay, so equals more flowing out than coming in. And when I talk about that, I'm talking interest. Interest is a massive one. Okay, another one is profit. Okay, then you've got like rent, dividends. All right, so all those types of income, salaries and wages, not so much. Okay, we're really talking the big ticket items of interest, and then we're talking about profit. There's one other issue that has historically caused us to be in this situation where we spend too much. And you think about the map on the wall, here's New Zealand. Okay, so we look by Nicholas and look, is there anybody close by? Is there any edging countries there? No, there's no countries. No. New Zealand is very isolated. Okay? Because we are isolated, we can make some cool stuff. But the problem is, boys, to get it to even our nearest neighbour, let alone Asia, let alone the States, the Americas, let alone Europe, is going to cost quite a lot in transport. Okay? So the isolation issue has historically meant that we pay a lot for transport. So pay heaps for transport. Okay? So that's a big issue, and the problem is New Zealand does not own that transport. All right? So the Greek shipping barons, you might have heard this expression. Scandinavian countries seem to own a lot of the shipping in the world. Okay, so they're foreign owned. And then the other one, who banks with ASB, BNZ, Westpac, the big banks? Yeah, who owns them? Yeah, not New Zealand. So our banking services, it's QBank, TSB Bank, insurance. Insurance is another service. We don't own that. Insurance, who owns the insurance companies? A lot of the UK. There's a lot of UK, the Scandinavians again. The Scandinavians have been around for a while, so that's why they own a lot of stuff. Okay? But the other issues are banking, big one, and insurance. Okay? So, hey, these are all related to the balance of services. Okay, which means we have a lot of imports, more than we have exports. Okay, doing very well. Focus. So this is all going on. Okay, why do we have an issue? Okay, too much foreign investment, having to be far away from everyone and having to pay too much to get it there. So, kind of wrapping this up because I don't want to go too far and confuse you poor things. Plus, I have a little activity that involves drawing. Okay, so, what can we read for this? How do we pay for our deficit? Nicholas? Okay, Oliver, please help me out. I kind of tried to explain it to you there. We have a deficit because we spend too much. All right, that's why we spend too much, because we have too much foreign investment and the income's going away. And then also we're isolated, we spend a lot on services. Okay, so you have a deficit, trying hard to get out of it, but how do we pay for it?
selling of assets.
Yeah, we borrow from the rest of the world. And then the problem is that we could get better at not using other people's stuff, like actually, doing better with exporting and sell more stuff to the rest of the world. But whenever you have to borrow from the rest of the world, you generate foreign investment, which means more income will flow out. So the calls to limit foreign investment, there is a reason for that. It's good, but then it can also have a dark side with us constantly having to have income flowing out from that foreign investment to other countries. So I'm going to stop the video here because I want us to learn a bit about how New Zealand got into this situation. Okay? No, you don't need to. All right.